What is going on to all my Succession fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. I am so excited to be here with you all because we are discussing the Season 3 finale, Episode 9, which is titled All the Bells Say, an episode in which we see Logan and Caroline making a decision for their kids that's going to change their lives forever, which also, speaking of kids, Logan Jr. coming in Season 4. We're talking about that. We're talking about Tom and Shiv's relationship after the decision that he makes, and we're also going to be talking about my predictions of what I hope to see in the Season 4 and so much more here in this spoiler review. But before we break it all down, quick call to action. Make sure you're checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. And as you can see on the screen now, if you all enjoyed this review, well, make sure to like the review, share the review, but also go ahead and leave your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about everything in the season finale. What was your favorite moments? What were moments that you laughed, you cried? What were moments that didn't work for you all? And let's also have that larger conversation. Your thoughts on Season 3, where it ranks for you amongst the other two seasons, where this finale ranks for you all, and of course, go ahead and share your predictions of what you all hope to see in the Season 4, all in the comments below. So before we break this all down, because I got my notes here that we're going to be going into here in a second, but I want to take the time to thank you all. Number one, we had a watch along last night. It was a live watch along. It was such a fun time. I want to thank every single one of you all that tuned in live, that watched the replay, that left some incredible comments, you know, super chats, all that fun stuff. It was such a great time. So if you all weren't able to tune in, I'm going to leave that link in the description below. It was about a 2-hour and 15-minute live stream. It was just such a fun time. So again, from me to you, thank you all for tuning in. And then the second thing that I want to touch on, these last 9 weeks have been incredible. I mentioned in episode 1 review that this is my favorite show on TV, and what makes it even better is the conversations that we have for these last 9 weeks. The comments, the likes, the shares, the support on those videos mean so much to me because as a YouTube creator, there's so many great platformers, to say content creators on this platform that's been covering the show like I have in the last 9 weeks, and they've been doing a phenomenal job at doing so. So the fact that you all take the time to watch my videos means a lot. So again, from me to you all, thank you for watching the watch along. Thank you for watching these reviews. Many more reviews coming on the channel, of course, but again, I just want to thank you all for the continued support. So with all that being said, we got a finale to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. And again, as I do with all these reviews, time codes and chapters will be in the description because there's a lot of topics we have to cover in this video. And again, I'm going to be spending the back half of this video talking about my overall thoughts of the season, talking about my favorite character and the favorite arc of this season, what didn't work for me in the season, and of course my predictions of what I hope to see in the future. And I'll give you my rankings of the finale and the season and all this stuff. So this will be a pretty heavy loaded review, and I'm so excited to be here with you all. So let's get into it as we break it all down. Starting off with this recap, we open up the episode finding out that Ken, he is safe for now. He did not die last week. That was the big topic at hand in last week's video. Did we just witness the death of what I consider the lead of the show, who is the Ken character played beautifully by Jeremy Strong? But he's okay, like I said, for now. We'll see what the future holds for that character, but I like how we open the episode with Logan reading a book to his grandson, the same grandson that he fed what he thought to be poison to, and reading him this book. It just goes to show you that it's just business as usual. We'll just move on to the next day as if nothing happened. Again, this is just a common theme with the Roy family, just business as usual. But we see everyone's playing Monopoly, everyone's seeming again, everyone's so phony, right? Everyone's playing this game, and you can't forget that the Dick Pickler is in attendance as well. I love that quote by Shiv, who was on fire in this episode. But small little details. Speaking of Shiv, I don't know if you all noticed when Willow was like, Shiv, you've been cheating this whole time, because she was using Tom's, Monopoly money and cheating in the process, which just speaks so much larger to their relationship. Speaking of cheating and affairs in their relationship, but it just speaks to how Tom is just continuously being picked on, being taken advantage of by his wife, the woman that he wanted to marry for the rest of his life. And we'll talk about them and their relationship, but it just shows you Tom's had enough, and he finally stands up for himself, and I can't wait to talk about that with you all. But we kind of fast forward, leave it to Rome to poke jokes about what happened to Ken, as we learn that Comfy, thank you Comfy for saving Ken, because we didn't see the moment, but it's alluded to that she was the one that was able to help Ken, him falling off of his floating device. So shout out to Comfy. But moving on, we see Ken there. He's looking like Ken from season 2. He's just a shell of himself at this point. He mentions that he just wants to let it all off the table. He wants to take the Vanity Fair article, which we learned that they're not really reaching out to him. It's more or less Ken trying to reach out to them, which as I break down this video, I'm going to be throwing in certain predictions what I wanted to see in season 4, and this is one of them. I think Shiv and Ken and Rome are going to think about the truth that they learned later in this episode and might use that to their advantage. Will it be a move that's going to help Ken or deflate Ken and put him in jail as well as his father? But I think that they're going to still use that as leverage in regards to, I'm going to go down, but I'm going to take our dad with us in regards to him covering up the killing and the death of that waiter in season 1. So keep an eye on that when we talk about predictions a little bit later. But I think they're going to use that to their advantage in season 4. But moving on, it appears that things with GoJo aren't looking that well as we kind of speculated last week, as Logan wants to have a face-to-face conversation with Lucas, which reminded me of when Lucas and Rome met in episode 7, which was Ken's birthday party. Remember Rome said that, I promise you won't ever have to talk to my dad? Well, I bet you Rome wished that he kept that promise, because now that they have that conversation that we're going to get into in a little bit, he's going to regret having those two lions and those two leaders being on the same page a little bit later. But let's go into this conversation as we see Rome, first and foremost, a joke with Logan talking about just stay here and play with yourself was hilarious. But they have a conversation on the boat, and I think this is something else to look forward to in a future season 4 as far as a subplot. We've been talking about Rome and his sexuality for a very long time, and I think it's going to be a situation where it's going to be revealed that he's bisexual. I think that we will see Rome, because and there's so many different little Easter eggs they've been alluded to in the first 2 seasons, whether it be his kind of sexual tension with the rumors of his personal trainer, whether it was just this season alone with him, kind of having a sexual tension with that Jared, who's going to maybe be the next president, and even examples of his relationship with his previous girlfriends, not having sex with them. So I think it's something to look forward to in a future season, that Rome will come out to be bisexual. Let me know what you all think about that, and if that's something you all would like to explore in a future season. But it's time to have the discussion. It's time to talk about the terms of this deal. Is it dead? Is it alive? Well, let's get into it as Lucas tells Logan about this story that he heard from Mark Zuckerberg, which the story was interesting. But I think GoJo is like this show's version of Facebook in a certain sense, or should I say Meta, or it's some type of up and coming streaming service. And we see Lucas expressing his concern with Waystar and his concern about merging with the company. So he has an idea that he pitches to Logan here, which we see. First off, I love hearing Logan talk about his rise to power, how he came to America and how things are different now, that people nowadays are either addicted to meth or they're addicted to yoga, and how it's just such a different landscape, which, by the way, I mentioned weeks ago, I don't know if we'll ever get this type of episode, but I would love in season 4 a flashback episode in regards to seeing Logan marrying Caroline, seeing a little bit of that kid dynamic of the house that they were raised in, how Logan came to be. I doubt that we'll ever get that, but I just love hearing those. If we don't get an actual episode dedicated to that, I want to hear more about how Logan came to be and how the company came to be and how more of the kids' history. So that's something I look forward to. But again, whenever Logan kind of reminisces about the past, it's always a great moment. But we see Logan again just kind of playing mind games and how the times are different and how he looks at the future. But speaking of mind games and speaking of the truth being told, Lucas, man, and shout out to Alexander Skarsgård, such a great casting, such a great actor. He demands your attention. And when we first met Lucas, he was just kind of like a dopey kind of CEO tech genius that feels himself too much and just thinks he's more than thinks he's the shit or whatever. So I kind of undervalued him. I judged the book by its cover, because he's coming to play ball. This is all the facade. He is about his business as he tells Logan a piece of his mind that he thinks he should be the head honcho of this merger. He should be the next CEO of Waystar, not the children, but him. What a moment there. And what I saw in that moment, see the hesitation of Logan. We've known Logan for the last 3 years, the last 3 seasons, I should say, to be very assertive. Like, he speaks his mind. He says whatever comes on his mind, the first thing that comes into mind, he'll let you know, F off immediately. Notice the hesitancy in Logan when he brought up that he wants to be the CEO. As soon as Logan hesitated and just thought about it for a split second without having a reaction to punch him in his nose, as we see Lucas brings up, I knew automatically, oh yeah, this is a serious conversation that Logan wants to have in regards to this is how I win. This is my way out. This is how we're going to figure out this situation. That spoke a lot to me. Of his silence spoke a lot to me in that moment. But I love how, and this is a very subtle moment, if you notice how Lucas looked at Logan and kind of looked at Rome and been like, let's get him out of here. Let the adults talk, right? Let the kid go away and play ball or play with himself with it being Rome, right? I love that little subtlety. And, we see little Logan says, all right, son, go back to your mom and let the, let's talk about this conversation about swapping access and all that stuff. But we know what the conversation was at hand. It's about the serious business, about this conversation of Lucas being the new CEO of Waystar. But again, and a question I have for you all regarding Logan, does he win? I mean, he technically wins, but he kind of loses because he sells. I mean, yes, it's a smart business decision, but we all know Logan to be, I'm going to figure it out. I want to be the CEO. So he's it's a little bit of vulnerability, or let me know if you feel like this is an absolute win for Logan. Let's talk about that in the comments. But moving on to a family meeting amongst the kids, which we talk about it every single week. Whenever you get Rome, Connor, Shiv, and Ken in one room, is some of the best stuff on the show, and this is nothing short of it. And I love who steps up in this scene. So we see Shiv and Connor and Rome having an intervention with their brother Ken. I love, he's like, okay, you need an intervention. You need like a very Oprah moment, right? They all need help. These kids, with Caroline and Logan being their parents, these kids need help immediately. But we see, again, it's so true with what Ken says, but this moment speaks a lot. We see Ken talking about, I'm the eldest son and I had everything taken away from me. And Connor's like, hello, I'm literally the oldest son. I have had things taken away from me. And I love this moment by Alec, the actor that plays Connor. I love when he stands up for himself. We don't really see it a lot in the show, but this moment here was such a great, and again, all these characters and all these actors are phenomenal, but seeing Connor step up for himself, speak up for himself, how he was having things taken away from him, how there was a period of time when he didn't see their dad for 3 years, and him just venting to them about just like, I'm the oldest, you never listen to me. I love that moment for Connor, and I think that speaks so much to that character moving forward in season 4. Number one, we'll talk about his wedding coming up, but also don't sleep on Connor when it comes to this president situation. I know we kind of laugh it off, kind of dismiss that idea as his family does, but I think Connor will be every single season so far. Ken has had a spotlight. Rome has had the spotlight in this season. Shiv obviously had the spotlight in various points of this season and previous 2 seasons. I think season 4 will be a very Connor-centric season. Again, leading with his wedding, with which we'll talk about here in a second, but also leading to him maybe being the next president. Let me know what you all think about that in the comments below. But speaking of that, he gets his moment to shine. We go from that moment, him speaking up to himself, for himself, to him having a moment with his soon-to-be wife, because we see Willis says, you know what, F it. I want to go ahead and marry you, as she makes him the happiest man at this wedding. And right now, like I said, as far as the season 4 prediction, I think that Willa and Connor will have a wedding, and it will be a great episode because the weddings are always the best. So it'll probably be like a season finale of season 4, maybe series finale. But I think a moment I want to see besides this great wedding with the maybe president and soon to be first lady, I want to know who Connor's mom is. We talked about it on a live stream yesterday, but I want to know if Connor's mom is still in the picture regarding if she's still alive or not. And if she is alive, I want the GOAT, as Jonah Hill would say, Meryl Streep, to be his mom. I want to know who his mother is. And if it is Meryl Streep, that would be fantastic. You're here to hear first. Meryl Streep as Connor's mom will be phenomenal. But let me know if you all are excited for season 4 and Connor maybe being a very pivotal, important character in once we get to that season, with him maybe being the president and a soon-to-be husband. So moving on, speaking of wedding, we transition to Caroline and Peter marrying each other, and we see Rome is still very concerned about his mom marrying Peter and about the prenup. And remember this about the prenup. We see Shiv say, yes, mom got the prenup. She got the house flat in London, which we know Peter wants to be in the political situation in London. Very important, because we'll be talking about that prenup or divorce and marriage and all this stuff that Caroline has working up her sleeve. But I love the moment here that we see this new soon-to-be power couple coming together at this wedding. But we check in, speaking of power couples, let's check in with my man Greg, who at this point, it's Flavor of Love, it's Bachelor's Paradise, the Greg edition, as he's talking to Tom about this dilemma that he finds himself in with Comfrey and this Contessa character, and just look at the thing I noticed of Greg in this season in particular, as the episodes have went on. Look at the confidence that Greg is exuding right now. Look at the way he's speaking, the way he's carrying himself. And I think all that stuff speaks to the decision that he makes a little bit later in this episode. You notice Tom, you notice Greg, how, I don't want to say humble, but kind of how they were left off, right? They were the forgotten family members of the Roy. They were obviously, married into, and then, Greg the Egg, the cousin that everyone forgets. And now where they are from season 1 to season 3 is some really great writing, some great arcs for those two phenomenal characters. So, and we'll talk about them a little bit later as well. But time for the wedding, as Peter is upset that Logan, the most important person that he really wanted to be at the wedding, will not be in attendance. And it's the reason why he was very upset, because he has some deals working with him. But in the wedding, which I thought that Rome was going to probably say something, which he didn't, but we see Willow crying. We see Greg sitting right between Contessa and Comfrey, again, player of the year. And I love when Shiv has her speech at the wedding talking about her mom's relationship and how she's a pain in her ass and all that stuff. And she mentions one of the lines that I marked down was, she said that she hopes that Peter and Caroline's marriage is just as successful as her and Tom's marriage, which is like a death sentence, right? Because their marriage is nothing short of just miserable and terrible and filled with lies. But we know Caroline and Peter, it seems to be an arranged marriage of sorts, to say the least. So moving on, and I think this is something important to take note of. I think this is something to look forward to in season 4 in a big moment, right? As we see the maca root, I believe is what the item was that Connor showed Shiv and Rome regarding to Logan and his smoothies, and he is using this route to bring another child into this world, and we're assuming that he might be bringing in the child with Carrie, his personal assistant, that he has said many times in the season how attractive she is. I wonder how Masha feels about that, but it seems like Logan wants another kid. I don't know why. I do not know why. He is not the greatest dad. He's not a good dad, and it will be very interesting to see Logan Jr. in a season 4. I personally think, in regards to predictions for season 4, if this child is gonna come to fruition, I think there might be some type of complications. There might be a more emotional storyline for Logan, having that he wants. This is something that he can't have. We know Logan gets everything that he wants, and whoever the mother of the child is, whether it's Carrie or someone else, who knows, Holly Hunter might come back into the equation, or another character in general, someone younger, someone, a new cast member, but I think there might be complications at hand, and I think that's going to be like an emotional thread for Logan to say, I've get everything that I want, but I can't have a child, having another kid with someone else. I think that's something to look forward to. Or he's going to have the kid, and it's going to be Satan's spawn, and it is the end of the world as we know it, as a Logan Jr. comes into this world. So I think that's very interesting. I think it's a terrible idea, but I think that's an interesting plot to look forward to. And I'm not saying terrible idea for the show. I think it's a brilliant idea for the show. I'm saying it's a terrible idea for Logan to bring in a kid to this world with his great parenting skills. But I think that that's something really explosive, really exciting to look forward to in season 4. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about the baby? How will that play out? Will there be complications? Will it be successful? Will we have a time jump to see the baby being born? Let's talk about that in the comments below. So very big moment here, as I marked down in my notes, moment of truth. And this is a moment that we've been looking forward to as an audience in regards to Ken speaking his truth from season 1 in the season 1 finale. So we see Rome tell Shiv about the meeting that took place earlier in the day with Lucas and their dad Logan meeting with him. And we see Shiv in desperation goes for help for her brother, Ken, right? Because out of all the siblings, Ken's the most veteran when it comes to this business stuff, right? And we all know that. So we see Shiv goes to him and needs his help. And this is the moment we've been calling for the beginning of the show. When these kids work together, when the siblings actually get on the same page, they could be a force to reckon with, but I think it's a little bit too little too late. But she goes to him, and it's time for them to come together, to come up with a plan to maybe stop their dad. We're seeing Shiv in full, like I said, panic mode, as she sees her and Rome are not getting answers from their dad. What's going on? Ken is obviously, he's in La La Land. He's obviously just had a moment where he almost died last week. He's tried to fight his dad. He's losing his battle, so he's not really all the way there. He's essentially dead inside. This is the same Ken that we saw in season 2, just a shell of himself, but this is the moment that he's been keeping inside since season 1, and this is the moment that he finally tells someone what happened in season 1. We see Ken goes into his little moment here, talking about how he wanted this plan to take down their father. how he saw it as an out, how he wanted to essentially help them get out of the situation and help his siblings. And then he flat out just goes out and said, I killed the kid. I killed the kid at your wedding. And he goes into the details, and just seeing the, Shiv and Rome at the moment. First and foremost, Rome, this kid can always find a bit of levity in any situation, as we see Rome, I guess, trying to be a good brother as he pokes jokes at the kid regarding like, who's the real victim here? Was it me or him not getting a drink? And then he goes into the technicality of the whole situation. Like, well, it sounds to me, Ken, that you were the hero. You tried your best to save the kid. It didn't work out, and you sound like a hero to me. So it just speaks so loudly about this family, how they just kind of brush off situations, and how it's just like, again, they have this moment, and we follow it up with the moment that we're talking about here. But I personally, just kind of going into this, breaking down that scene, I love that Ken was able to speak his truth and let that out and speak it out into existence. I just wish that it wasn't overshadowed by the big theme of this episode, which is the kids fending for themselves and their father selling the company. I wish it was a more of a quieter moment. I almost wish like this, not a dedicated episode, but I almost wish like it was an episode that this moment would have been revealed on his birthday. Like, I wish it would, because it was a Ken-centric episode. I feel like that would have been a Ken moment to share with his family, but obviously it was given in this moment, which obviously ties back into the parallels of season 1 finale when the moment happened, and parallel that to season 2 or season 3 with him revealing what actually happened. So I see the parallels there, but I just wish that it was more of a detail, more of an intimate, more of a Ken-centric moment, because I feel like it was overshadowed by the rest of the stuff that was incredible, don't get me wrong, but I wish that Ken would have had more of a moment to express what he's feeling like, and I wish there was more of a seriousness to it. Of course, I love Rome and what he says in this moment, which again was very dark and just shows the selfish nature and the self-centeredness of these characters, but I wish the moment was a little bit more fleshed out. Let me know how you all feel about that. Ken revealing to his siblings what really went down, but that's interrupted. Like I mentioned, there's bigger fish to fry per se going on right now, as it is confirmed that the deal is definitely happening between Waystar and GoJo merging, and there's a new sheriff in town by the name of Lucas. So they want Ken to get into the situation, and time for Ken to it's time for the siblings to put the secrets aside, to put the BS aside, to put their egos aside. It's time for them to come together to stop the big bad beast, aka Logan. Will they succeed? We'll get to that here in a second, but as they wonder can they stop him, we see, and this is important to remember here, this is where Ken says to them, change of control, needs super majority in the holding company, which is what their mother got in their divorce arrangement. Remember that line, that right now they're thinking, okay, we're safe. Mom helped us out. We have that as leverage in our back pocket. Remember that line when we get to the last scene of this episode. But time to rip off the Band-Aid as Shiv, she's leading the force. She's leading the charge here as she lays out the details. And Dad, she talks about Dad isn't healthy. Ken says, okay, this is a full coup. We're going to go in. We're going to use ATN as a way to say that he's sick. We need to get our dad out of the situation. And the person that I was like, okay, are they going to be on board was Rome, because we all know Rome has always been the one, the kid that's always been like, all right, Ken, season 1, me or you, you're going to be CEO, I'll be the president. Season 2, the same thing. Season 3, the same thing. But Rome finally decides, I'm going to work with my older siblings to take down my dad, my hero, as Ken is saying, I have the shotgun in hand, and I'm ready to take on our dad. So I just love that we finally get the moment of Captain America, Black Widow, and Iron Man taking down Thanos. But like I said, a little bit too late. But I love just going back to that narrative, thinking about these characters. Every single one of them have been shot down by their dad. Obviously, season 1 was all about Ken and him having the paradise, having the throne right in his hands to be taken away in that season. Obviously him trying to take down his dad and going with Stewie and all that stuff with Sandy in season 1. Look at this season in particular with Shiv. For a good portion, first 3-4 episodes, she was the one that was getting all the information. She was the one making the calls, but then she effed up with the whole giving the board seat to Sandy Jr. and having that deal that obviously Logan, who was out of his mind in that episode, he wasn't happy about how the deal played out. So once Shiv made that mistake, she was off the table. And then Rome, he was the king to be. He was clicking on all cylinders, working out deals, getting Lucas in the forefront, and then he messed up with that D pick. So it just goes to show you they've all been on a high level, all to be taken down, for them to finally come together to take down Thanos, aka Logan, and we're going to get to that. But cut to them making the calls to who they believe is their most trusted allies, right? We see Ken making his calls to, I assume, his people, Comfrey and all of them. I assume Rome was talking to Jerry, if that's his most trusted advisory. And then, of course, Shiv makes her phone call to who she thinks to be her most trusted person that she can talk to. And it's no other than her husband, Tom. And the most important thing that I love about this is just seeing Tom taking in all this information. And again, the intel that she gives him and believing that it's Tom. I can tell him anything. He's on my side. I have Tom in my pocket. He's all in on this situation. I love how she thinks that, and calling in Tom and making the moves. And we transition to them calling everyone, and we see Tom having a conversation with Greg, who again, Greg's on an all-time high. He's talking about Contessa, things are working out with us. I think I'm going to go ahead and make my move on her. And Greg says, well, what about, or Tom says to Greg, what about, Comfrey? Well, Comfrey's going to actually help Contessa market herself. So he's like all on a high, but Tom looks at him and says, you know what, that's all cool, Greg, but we got some bigger things to worry about. Can I trust you? Do you want to join me on the dark side, ladies and gentlemen? And this is the moment here. Let's talk about Tom. Tom, as Ken says it, is the country frog that marries the princess. This is the man that was willing to go to jail for this family with all the stuff with the case and all the stuff that was going on in the last season. This is the guy that made the bed that he wants to sleep in. Well, not his wife, but he wants to sleep in the bed with Greg, his best friend, as Tom invites Greg to come with him in making the deal with the devil. And he wants Greg to be his attack dog, as he says it. And we see Greg, this is a perfect response. I love this moment. Greg says to him, what am I going to do with the soul anyway? Souls are boring. Again, that's such a pivotal moment for both of those characters. I urge you all to think about Greg and Tom in season 1 and how they were outsiders, how they were just shut down, made fun of, couldn't be taken seriously. And just look at Greg's arc in this season. He starts off the season with Ken's side and how Ken eventually screwed him over and was going to, throw him in the papers and use him as a ploy for his whole game of taking out his father. And then transition to Tom in this season, whether it be his wife dismissing him and putting him down, whether it be Rome not listening to him. But then remember his ace in the hole when he was willing to lay on that grenade for the Roy family, and particularly Logan, and how Logan told him he appreciated that and how he looked at him as a son and he told him that he owes him one. The time has come for Tom and Greg to make that decision. I love that arc from season 1, season 2, and then particularly in this season, how we got to that moment with these two characters. Phenomenal writing, and what a decision that Tom makes a little bit later. But time for the children to have their talk with their good old dad, Logan, as we see them looking for their dad. They come into where he's at. Logan, they finally approach the room, and Logan immediately says, get Ken out of here. Rome, get your brother out of here. I'm not going to talk business in front of him, this snake, this traitor here. And this is one of many examples of Rome finally stepping up. The evil, big bad Rome, who we've been hating this whole season, especially in the last few weeks. He stands up for his brother and he says, we all need to be here to hear this, Dad. So they're finally stepping up. Like I said, a little too late at this moment as Logan goes into all the stuff going on with the deal, and he has the feelings in his bone. And this moment here, he talks about this is the best moment to sell the company. And, it's time for him to make his pile. But more importantly, it's time for the kids to make his pile. As you guys can see on the screen now, maybe there's something we can look forward to in the future season, them working at Target together. But no, I think it does speak a lot. And I said it in last night's live watch along that it's time for these kids to make a living for themselves. Now, granted, Shiv has made her own with the political situation, which I'll talk about my predictions of her in season 4. But, Ken, Rome, and to a certain extent, Shiv, and of course, Connor, they've always had their dad and the company to lean on. Like, if I start a startup company, if it fails, I can just go back to dad's company. If I do, the campaign thing, I could just go back to my dad's company. I can do all this crazy stuff in the tabloids, speaking of Rome, and just have the leverage to go in and have my dad sorted out. So now that they don't have that in their back pocket, they don't have that safety net per se, I can't wait to see them fend for themselves and what they get themselves into season 4 in regards to making a name for themselves and not relying on Waystar as a parachute or, like I said, as a safety net. So that is something I am extremely excited to see what that looks like of them working and getting their own pile. Can't wait, ladies and gentlemen. But moving on, we see Logan kind of playing a little bit more of the mind games with his son Rome, because he knows that Rome is the weakest link out of his kids, and Rome shuts him down again. He stands up for his siblings, and we see Shiv. She brings her heat. She talks about the supermajority situation and how they're going to kill the deal, and this is where Dad Logan, aka the Beast, He yells at his children. He tells them that you can't beat me, you're toy soldiers, calling them morons, mocking Shiv, talking about super majority. Again, Brian Cox is incredible. I love him in the show, and they're just shocked. They're kids again. I love when Logan puts them in this place because we all know Shiv and Rome and all of them to have like their own personalities and their own egos, and when they're not around their dad, they're the center of attention, but when he shuts them down, they look like those little kids that we see in the theme of the show. So I love when they just are just like, okay, Dad, they're just like shivering like little kids. But this moment here, talk about one of the parents. Let's talk about the second parent in Caroline who drops a bombshell on their children. The terms of the divorce have been changed as she's on the phone. And remember I told you all, remember that conversation that they had in the van regarding the change of control. There needs to be the super majority in the holding of the company, which their mother worked out in the divorce. But now that deal has been modified and they are no longer in control in regards to the holding. They cannot do anything about this deal. But my question for you all, and I know this is all the business stuff behind the scenes, but I wonder how much Sandy Jr. and Stewie have to say about this decision. I know they're not family members. I know the family members probably supersede, non-family members, but I wonder if they have anything that they can say, or even better yet, Adrian Brody's character, I believe his character name was Josh. Does he have any say so in this decision? Probably not, but I wonder how pivotal they're going to be in this decision that Logan made in future seasons. But again, the bombshell moment, Caroline, their mother, their perfect mother, Shiv's onion, makes a decision to take away their kids' majority vote, and it's all taken away from them in that moment. And I'm telling you all, looking at Roman's face, looking at Shiv's face, those two will hurt the most, because you see Ken, he's already been dead inside. He's been dead this whole season, so he's not surprised. But just looking at Shiv and Rome's face, it speaks volumes of how they felt in that moment. And it was as Logan says, seat sniffer has more than the kids have this moment. Such a great moment. But we see Rome pleading, begging his dad not to do this. And he says, it's love, Dad. And this is where Logan says, you're going to talk about love? You guys coming here with your guns blazing? That was such a great moment here. And again, I urge you all to rewatch that scene. Just look at Shiv and Rome. They are absolutely depleted. And again, like I said, Rome goes over to Jerry. She says, what does this do for this? It doesn't help me to go against your dad. It's all within, my best interest, which speaks so highly of their relationship that Rome thought that he had Jerry in his back pocket, but she only cares about herself. I'm sorry, Rome. You've been sending her some personal pictures, but she doesn't care. She needs to look out for herself. But the big question at hand in this point in this episode is, okay, who snitched? Who was the one that gave Logan the heads up that the kids were coming to take the dad down? It's the camera pans over, and it's, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Tom, and he's smiling at Tom, puts his hand on his shoulder. And if you all saw my reaction last night, if you didn't, I'm going to cut to it right quick. Check out my reaction to when we get that moment with Tom. Oh, snap, bro. Did Tommy boy pull a move on his wife? So as you all can see, I was shocked, and we've been talking about it for weeks. What is Tom's end game? What has he been setting up? He wants to go to jail so willingly, but it pays off because his father-in-law, his dad, comes to appreciate him, and he shows him more love than he shows his wife that he married. And I think that's so great for the Shiv character to have that portrayal given to her, because remember season 1, the finale, when they got married, they go home, they go in their room, obviously to celebrate their marriage, and he finds out that his wife wants to have an open marriage. He finds out his wife wants to have an affair with him in this marriage. Shocking. But even take into account, in that same night, Tom gave her valuable information regarding the cruises, and what did Shiv do? She told Jerry and used that as blackmail. So that is just such karma for Shiv to have that portrayal given to her in that moment. Incredible writing, incredible moment for both of those characters, and I was happy for Tom. And like I said, you all saw my reaction. It was phenomenal. It was a great way to end it. But speaking of ending, let's talk about the ending. As Tom comes in, like Tom, oh honey, are you okay? What's going on? Sarah Snook, that moment in her face, she had the reaction. She's like, you screwed me over, but she didn't show him that. She's like, Mom screwed us over. And she walks over to the couch. She starts crying. Tom, and by the way, look at Rome on the ground crying as Ken's trying to, help him out. But you see Shiv, she's starting to cry. And we see Tom come over, kiss her on the forehead. End of the episode. What an incredible way to end the episode. And just so much to just dissect in that moment. I love that it was Tom that made the decision. He has his boy Greg with him on this mission to maybe be head honchos and at the highest level, him running the news station, him getting more than his wife. I love that moment from the characters. So let me know your thoughts on the ending and how you all felt about that reveal. But let's go into some of my topics here in regards to who do I think was my favorite character in season 3, and let me know, share yours in the comments. I got some runner-ups. Of course, you can't forget Jeremy Strong as Ken. He's going to definitely win some awards. I will say for me personally, Ken's character, it started off with him on top. Episodes 1 and 2, taking down his dad, getting the best lawyer, and as the season went on, he became less and less confident. He noticed that he was going to lose his battle, and Jeremy Strong is always phenomenal, but I will say the Ken character was a little bit kind of mishandled for me in the middle of the season, which we kind of shifted the focus more on Shiv and Rome, who we'll talk about here in a second. So I love Jeremy Strong. I personally think he's the lead of the show. If there is like someone that's the lead, I think that he is a lead. And I think that it was a great arc for him to kind of see him in this moment, but I feel like this was a similar arc to season 2. We saw him on top of his game. I'm going to take down my dad. I got Stewie. I got all, let's just say season 1, all to be shut down with what happened in season 1 finale. And then seeing him in season 2 being a shell of himself and then gaining that confidence finale. I was hoping to see that confident version of Ken this entire season, but we got that similar Ken that we got in season 1 and season 2. So Jeremy Strong, no fault to you. I just thought that the character was maybe a little mishandled, and I wanted a little bit more of that confidence that we got in the first 2 episodes of the season. So, but again, great actor, great character. Second for me as far as runner-up, Sarah Snook as the one and only Siobhan. I love Siobhan. I love her swagger. I love her confidence, but I also love her vulnerability. I love her bad decision-making. I love her being kind of new to this family business, being so used to being in campaigning and all that stuff, and just seeing her arc again. She was brought in by her dad in season 2 to be the president that we saw in season 3, that he gave her that title. But then as she made that decision to have Sandy Jr. have a chair at the board, that was her shot that she missed, and that was the moment that she got taken down, right? But I love what Sarah brings to this role. I love the relationship, the dynamic between her and her husband, and I think for season 4, that divorce is imminent. I think that divorce will be happening. They will not be together, or who knows? Siobhan is such a weird power dynamic, power hungry person. She might be more turned on than ever that Tom made the decision, or like I said, it could lead to the divorce. And can't forget, there's babies on the way, the baby icicles. I wonder if that kid will come to fruition. But I thought that Siobhan was great in this season. Again, seeing her at her highest moment, seeing her be brought down, her, stabbing her brother in the back with the letter, her trying to get on her dad's side, but ultimately coming and working with her brothers and her siblings to take down her dad. I thought that was a great arc for that character. And of course, Brian Cox. I mean, Logan, he is the Darth Vader. He is the Plagueis of this show. He is just a terrible dad. And the decisions that he did this season, seeing his moments of vulnerability, him and Josh, and being taken advantage of on the line of the Mellow episode, and seeing him on the shareholders meeting with him having the moment of not taking his pills. And we still got to remember that. Is he sick? Is that something that season 4 is going to present? He's going to be maybe on his deathbed by the end of the season, but I thought Brian Cox, as always, delivers the goods, and him yelling and F off, all that stuff was fantastic. And my favorite scene this season involves him and his son Ken at that dinner table last week with the whole poison. And I'm a little bit of spice, I'm a little bit of fun. Brian Cox is absolutely fantastic. But my MVP of season 3, who I think absolutely had an incredible arc, is the one, the only, Kieran Culkin as Rome. I hated Rome this season in the best way possible. He was just like for my Game of Thrones fans, he was kind of the Ramsay, the Joffrey of the crew, and just despicable, from pushing his brother on his birthday to just all the inappropriate jokes to his sister, to obviously what he did with Jerry and the the dick pickler with his dad. Such great moments. But just looking at, to be honest with you all, the reason I say Rome had the best arc, he was the only sibling to go as low and do the things, the tactics to be the king of the hill. He was willing to do the dirty things that none of his other siblings were willing to do. He betrayed his siblings. He did the deals behind their backs. He kept them out of the dark. He was winning for most of the season, and I love going back to Rome season 1, this kind of younger kid who can do whatever he wants, says whatever he does, having white privilege, doing all the racist jokes and all that, just your stereotypical white privileged kid, not knowing anything about anything, to seeing him going to the camp, learning about management, seeing him going to the overseas and having that whole takedown, kidnapping situation, to seeing him making the deals, bringing in GoJo, and being potentially the next CEO in charge until, again, the dick pickler ruined him. He burned himself, but I thought that Rome was really well done in this show and just phenomenal. Transitioning to my surprise character of the season, I should say characters, is no other than Tom and Greg. Those two actors are phenomenal, but those arcs that we got with them, again, just seeing them at the beginning of the season, Greg working with Ken only to be burned, Tom, obviously with his relationship with his sister or his wife, and obviously relationship with Logan, which is such a great thing to see, and then obviously seeing that moment of him revealing to be the one that snitched on his wife and the other siblings was just a great moment. I thought that Tom and Greg, some of the funniest moments in this episode, some of the more emotional moments of the episode, him meeting with Ken at the diner and all that stuff. And of course, the moment they have in the office when they're talking about Marion, pushing his wife down the stairs and castrating his partner, in that case being Greg. So I thought that they were absolutely fantastic in this episode. So again, share with me your favorite characters, your surprise character of the season, and then transitioning to my personal favorite episode this season. I gotta say, great season, has its highs and lows, who we'll talk about here in a second, but my favorite episode has to be last week's episode. Episode 8 was so great. My favorite scene of the show, again, involves Logan and Ken having that conversation at the dinner table. Logan thinking that he was poisoning, his son is poisoning him, so he brings in his grandson to eat the food, and the conversation at hand was phenomenal, and that cliffhanger, is Ken dead, was so great, and all the stuff leading up to that was one of my favorite episodes of the show, of this entire show run, but also my favorite episode of this season, followed by this finale. This finale was fantastic as well, and also the Janitors in Idaho was a really great episode, but I have to say, for me, my favorite episode this season is episode 8, which brings me to my last two rankings. My favorite finale out of the 3 so far, from my personal taste, I gotta say season 2 finale is my number 1 finale so far. And then I'm not gonna lie, after revisiting episode 9 of this season, I think season 1 finale and season 3 are 1A, 1B. They're so close to me, but I gotta make a decision. I gotta say season 1 has the slight edge over season 3. They're not far off, but I got to go season 2 finale number 1, season 1 finale is number 2, and then season 3 is my third favorite, which isn't a bad thing because, like I said, it's so close to being my second favorite. But season 2, to me, that finale was incredible when Ken made that moment of calling out his dad. But it brings me to my last ranking, which are my favorite seasons of Succession so far. I'm going to make it quick and easy. Season 2, Season 1, and Season 3, which brings me to, let's talk a little bit about the criticism with Season 3. I felt like there was a bit of repetitiveness to some of the subplots, and particularly with Ken. We've seen Ken go to the highest peaks to go down low again. We've seen that before, and I wanted more of that confident Ken, as I talked about earlier. It took a little bit to pick up the momentum in the first few episodes. Again, it was a great way to start off the season. The season premiere was great, but then kind of that episode 3 and 4 and some of the stuff in those episodes were great. I mentioned how that episode with the president stuff when they met to the future president Jared was my least favorite episode. So I have to say it was a great season, but I still think that season 2 was a better season and season 1 was a better season. But again, I can't deny that there were some incredible moments within season 3, but it's my third least favorite season of the 3 so far, but it's still, we're talking about still the best show on TV. So let me know again your favorite characters, your favorite arc, your favorite season finale, your favorite episode of season 3, and where do you rank all 3 seasons of the show thus far. Wrapping up this long mega video review breakdown with my season 4 predictions, which I believe we can expect season 3 or season 4 to become available maybe early 2023, or if tradition speaks to previous seasons, season 1 came out in June, season 2 I believe came out in August, and of course we know this came out in the fall, so I'm hoping that spring of 2023, but neither here nor there. Bold predictions for season 4. Shiv and Tom will have a divorce and maybe still have a baby in the midst of that divorce. Let me know your thoughts on that. Speaking of baby Logan Jr., I think there will be complications with that child. I don't think that he'll be able to get everything that he's been used to getting his entire life. And keep in mind, he is still an unhealthy individual. But if we do get that baby Logan, all hell is to come with that baby. And then, of course, Tom and Greg take over. I see nothing but big things for those two characters. I know right now it's looking like Luke is going to be the CEO, but I wouldn't be surprised if somehow, some way, Tom and Greg, CEO and president, you heard it here first. And then wrapping things up, I think Ken will finally find that confident Ken that we've been wanting to see for an entire season. I think he'll be at peace with himself, but I think he'll be at peace with himself because that truth that he let off his chest in this episode, in this finale, I think he's going to do that Vanity Fair topic piece, and he's going to let out that his dad and him had the involvement in the cover-up of that killing of that kid. So I think that's something to look forward to. I think Rome's going to come out as bisexual. His sexuality has been brought up numerous times in the show, and particularly with his dad, calling him all the inappropriate slurs. So I think that he will come out as bi. And then I think that Shiv will, this might be the bold one, Shiv will be back working. You know, they have to fend for themselves. So I think Shiv will go back to campaigning for the next president-to-be in Connor. She will be representing her brother as a president. And then I think this will be an all-out war with the siblings versus their dad to get control. Just some bold predictions, but I can't wait to see what season 4 has up its sleeve. So let me know your predictions in the comments. And again, I know this is a long video. I'm thirsty as hell, but again, I appreciate every single one of you all for staying on to this point in the video. And again, watching the watch along last night to watching all these reviews. It means so much to me. And there's so much more I have planned for you all, not only in the future, but this week alone. We got Spider-Man review. We have The Witcher review. We have so many more things up the pipeline. But again, I appreciate every single one of you all. Before you all leave this and exit this video, make sure to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments of everything we discuss in this video. And again, from me to you, thank you for the support. Hope you enjoyed this review. Hope you're staying safe. As you can see on the screen now, subscribe to my channel, check out my other content, and we'll catch you all on the next video.